Hi, everyone. Carter Krishnaiyer here for Beyond the 90. I want to answer some of your listener questions from our paid subscribers. This is a benefit of being a paid subscriber to Beyond the 90. We have lots of free subscribers, and we want free subscribers also. But if you pay, you have the ability to use our chats and leave comments and ask questions. So let's start here with I'm going to take a question about, given the recent announcement about WPSL Pro. This is pretty big. Do you believe that league has legs to potentially challenge the USL Super League? I'll tell you what they're doing. They're trying to vacate a D2 space that maybe the USL Super League could have started in, rather than going D1 and producing a product that by all accounts, anyone who is truly objective, looks vastly inferior to NWSL. And it's because you don't have the investment, you don't have established clubs. This is what's going to make USL's D1 challenge to MLS so much different than the D1 challenge to NWSL on the women's side. Because on the men's side, you have established USL clubs with greater pedigree and greater track record than some clubs than half of MLS, right? And built-in fan bases and built-in sponsorships and investors that have been long-term players in the soccer football space in the United States. You didn't have that with the Super League. You had a bunch of new teams, largely new investors, and those that were connected to men's clubs were very recently launched men's clubs. So WPSL Pro, I don't think necessarily is going to attract the kind of investor, although I am curious about the Cleveland one, and I've got a podcast queued up, Soccer Business Podcast with Simon Evans, about the Cleveland situation that I need to listen to and I need to catch up on this week. That might give us more insight into Cleveland's decision-making as to go in WPSL Pro instead of USL Super League. I think that's a potentially big one for WPSL Pro. They're going into different kinds of markets. So do they challenge USL Super League? I think there's so many women's players who have been good college soccer players or good academy products. We have more participation from women footballers in this country than any other place on the planet. And the idea that NWSL alone as a professional league could service all of those needs was absurd. So we need all of these leagues. Potentially challenge them? They could, but I don't think that that's necessarily it. I don't know if it's about challenging rather than giving more opportunities. What's going on the men's side is both, but on the women's side, I think you're just creating a deeper ecosystem. So we're gonna we're going to go next to Wrexham fan, who says, how hard is it to get promoted in England? What Wrexham is doing is remarkable. Does this happen often with teams shooting up the pyramid so fast? No. Although Luton Town did fall down the pyramid pretty quickly and then came back up once they got out of the conference level, out of the National League level, right, the fifth tier, the semi-professional level. They did come up the pyramid and get to the Premier League so quickly. It generally doesn't happen this fast, although Stockport is progressing as quickly as Wrexham. By the time y'all view this, there's going to be a Bank Holiday Monday match that maybe Wrexham jumps Wycombe Wanderers back into second in the EFL playoffs. But no, as of now, Wrexham might be in the playoffs, and it's going to be tough for them to get promoted again. But this generally doesn't happen, and I think what you're going to see from Wrexham is if they go up, they're going to try and consolidate for a few seasons in the championship, get the infrastructure right, build out the business. They have an unbelievable amount of revenue for a League One club, huge amounts of revenue, which makes them a much more sustainable business than other clubs potentially that would get promoted to the championship. But then they don't. A lot of it is the celebrity factor, right? So they need the infrastructure built out, proper academy, proper training ground, proper sponsorship sales. And permanent revenue streams. And they're working on that. They're getting it right. Wrexham is getting it right. But it is so much of what you see on the pitch reflects what goes on off the pitch. And they're catching up on the business side to where they need to be a championship club. We're going to do this in a couple different installments. So this is just the first set. Let's see. We have a lot of stuff on Trump. I'm going to answer those questions in a different video. A lot of stuff on politics, as we talked about in the previous video, and I respect that, and I understand we have to talk about it, because I do consultancies in the game also beyond my writing, and it's everywhere. It's just everyone's talking about this impact. And the thing I will preface that by saying is that there were people, there have been however many presidential elections since I've been involved with this sport. But this is the first presidential election, 2024, where I had people coming to me like, people are holding their money because they want to know what happens in the election. And it was two sets of people. There were people who were saying, you know what, Kamala Harris is a socialist. She's going to tax us to death. So we don't want to spend unless Trump wins. And then there were another set of people saying, Harris will be better for business. We don't want to spend if Trump wins because he's going to implement tariffs and restrictions on foreign investment that we can't abide by. I kind of laughed both of them off, quite frankly. I said, no, Harris is not a socialist. I know political philosophy pretty well. She's not a socialist. And that Trump is going to deter foreign investment, please. That's ridiculous. Well, now... yeah, I guess I wasn't reading that thing right. I wasn't reading that thing right in October and November when I told people that, because I pushed back on both, like both ways I pushed back. So we'll talk about that in another video. I want to keep going with the non economics or global economics or Trump related stuff. Soccer King asked, what is the level of coordination between U.S. Soccer and USL about all matters such as ProRel and the U.S. Open Cup? Are you feeling better now about MLS former domination of U.S. soccer being a thing of the past? Yes, I am feeling better about that. I don't think, though, necessarily there's a level of coordination. I think there's a level of acceptance by U.S. soccer that USL is allowed to build, I'm using Alexi Lalas's term, but build a better mousetrap than MLS has. We're not going to stop it. When NASL attempted to do it, it was pushed back on. It was stopped by U.S. Soccer. Now, I don't know that NASL ultimately would have built a better mousetrap than MLS. I think that's very much in doubt. I think USL's plans are much more concrete. Their infrastructure is better, and they planned this out better. But I think U.S. Soccer is willing to let ProRel go. They're going to let the ProRel thing happen. Which is not what, Sunil Gulati for years, I gotta mention this. I gotta talk about this. This is going to be, here we're going to get controversial. Sunil Gulati for years said, I'm agnostic about promotion and relegation. I'm agnostic about solidarity payments and training compensation. I'm neutral on that stuff. While we knew he really wasn't. Then in a blaze of glory on his way out at the coaches convention in Philadelphia, which many, many of us were at that year. I wasn't at the awards banquet, but at the awards banquet at that coaches convention, I was down the street somewhere probably. He decided to give this speech that basically was this righteous indignation about anyone who wanted promotion and relegation in the United States, anyone who talked about reforming the system, anyone who talked about solidarity payments and training compensation, and basically was mocking people who wanted reform in the game. Months after the United States had missed qualifying for a men's World Cup. Just mere months after that event. So they were not agnostic. They were never agnostic about it. And I will say, once again, if we had promotion and relegation, long-term, the benefits, the U.S. would never miss a World Cup. The U.S. would never be on the fringes of things. We're going to get into promotion and relegation this week in that series. That series is launching this week that I promised. But no. So I'm glad Cindy Parlow-Cohn and JT Batson are taking... Maybe they actually are agnostic. But if you're agnostic, then you let the market decide. Sunil Gulati was not agnostic. He never had been agnostic about promotion and relegation. Never, never, never. Okay. For USSF, does USL Super League have or will have the same number of representatives on the board as NWSL? No, they will not. It's based on attendance. And their attendance is nowhere near that of NWSL. How are board seats from the respective leagues determined? By attendance. For example, does NISA or NPSL or LFC currently have any reps? NPSL and LFC are sanctioned through the USASA, John Paul Mota, so they do not have any reps. NISA does, they get one. That's it. That's all they have right now. They have one vote because they oh, you're talking about the board. Okay, the board, that's totally different. I thought we are talking about vote for president. The board, um, you may get a representative, you may not. It's just the board gets elected at will. Now, on the Pro League Council, each has one rep. And as USL 1 and USLC expands, adds new clubs, shouldn't that be reflected in increasing board seats? It never is. But it will be reflected in the vote for president, vice president, other officers in the USSF because USL's attendance is increasing as they increase clubs. Although their attendance, yeah, it hasn't been great. Let's be honest. The attendance is it's not bad, but it's pretty stagnant in the USL Championship, and the league knows that, and they're working on it. Okay, what revenues from ESPN Plus, CBS, or Paramount Plus broadcasting do the USLC versus USL1 accrue? And what the relative amount of ticket amount trickles down to each club in each league? Okay, so each club is getting a payout from it. It's not a huge payout, but it is something. It's six figures. For example, the USL Championship Finals last year between Colorado Springs and Rhode Island FC, did both clubs gain some revenue due to the gangbuster number of 500,000 viewers? And we had that now last week for San Antonio and Phoenix tuning in to watch. No, it's not prorated based on that. Everybody gets a split. It's an equitable split. What is your current feeling on the state of soccer wars between NPSL, LFC, and USL League 2? We're going to save that for a different video, Soccer King. Thanks for the question. Is it currently a stalemate, or do you detect movement continuing defections from NPSL? Again, that requires a separate video. That's a big topic, important topic. I want to do it justice. I just don't want to answer it for half a minute. Do you sense the threat in tariffs, political? Okay, we're going to get to that in a separate video. The tariffs. Okay, let's see. What else do we have here? Okay, another question on WPSL Pro from Bobby Brandon, who, by the way, you should check out his stuff. Great guy. I've known Bobby for 20 years through this sport and through politics. Knew him through both. He's awesome. Where do I see? But let me expand on his question. He's asking another question about WPSL Pro. I've answered that, most of it, but I think it will slot into a position where they create the ecosystem in smaller markets the way USL League One and MLS Next Pro is trying to do on the men's side. Let's see. I do have a specific question about Trump. No, we're not doing that one now. Okay. I know I skipped something. Oh, James Hunt. Great lower division person. So James, thanks. Kartik, what do you think the USL has to do to get the launch of their first division right? And what do you think is the best way for the USL to implement ProRel for it to be successful? We're going to get into that in a video series. Now on the D1, I think they've got to get the launch right. They've got to get clubs whose infrastructure is built out and who have staffs that they have at least 6 to 8 ticket salespeople, at least 2 to 3 sponsorship people in their front office, and they have their own training grounds, and they have a decent stadium situation. So look at the USL Championship. Who are those clubs? Sacramento, that's the obvious one. Lou City, New Mexico. The stadium isn't ideal, but I think they have the staff. They have that built out. Let's see, USL Championship. I would not put Tampa Bay there right now. Maybe, but the market size is obviously huge. Phoenix, okay, you put Phoenix there. Detroit, yeah. Indy, the stadium is an issue, but you have to have Indy in there. And then after that, you look for expansion teams. and deep-pocketed owners that are committed. Rhode Island also you put in there. Committed from day one to build out and say, okay, we're hiring 6, 8, 10 salespeople to sell tickets, only tickets, immediately. Then we are going to hire 3, at a minimum, 3 sponsorship salespeople at the beginning. So much of this happens behind the scenes. So much of this is front office build out. The Pro thing I said I was answering later, so James, I'll answer that in a different video. Okay, I know there's some more questions here. Sorry, I'm doing this in sort of in the real time thing. Oh yeah, here's some more questions here. You have a Rolodex and context list. Few in the lower division space have. Thank you. I'm made aware of that all the time. You know, I sometimes I don't toot my own horn enough, but people tell me that, like, you know, everyone. I don't know everyone, by the way, but I know a lot of people. I don't know why you want to avoid politics in the past. Okay, so that's the political thing. Wow, I had not even thought of all the teams in USL that use Charlie. Okay, so like the Charlie thing and Puma, Hummel, Macron. We're gonna have to talk about that in the separate tariffs and economic stuff video. So I think that's it for now. If you have more questions, keep them coming. You know, we'll keep doing this, and yeah, and I'll get to those other questions, stuff related to promotion and relegation specifically, and stuff related to tariffs and trade and immigration and Donald Trump specifically in the next set of videos. Thank you.